Good evening, y'all. Hi there, Linda. Hi, Diana. Um, Only a couple of you so far. Well, we'll give it a few minutes for people to show up. Admit, there we go. Hi there, Jim. Hope y'all are having a good start to your week. We're just gonna hang out for a few minutes while we wait for people to trickle in here. Hi there, Julie. Oh, you're good. We're just waiting for people to trickle in. Hi there, Taylor. Good evening. Hi. We're not starting just yet. We're gonna give a couple minutes for people to trickle in. But then I have a fair bit I want to get to today. So at that point, we will just jump right in. Hi there, Maria. Good evening. Oh, you're totally fine. Yeah, we're waiting for people to pop in here. Um, hmm Yes. It is scheduled to start. That's a really good question. Give me 1 second. Um, trying to. I can't remember if there's a gap in between this one and Excel 2, or if it starts the very next week. Um, so Excel 2 is scheduled to begin on. It's also going to be Tuesday, the same time, on the 8th of November. So it skips 2 weeks. Oh, there are still openings actually. I was going to mention, since you asked about it, that there's a possibility it may not happen because there's only a couple people signed up, and LB tends to only want to run classes that have at least like 3 people is like their bare minimum. Um, so yes, if you'd like to sign up, um, eh, all right, cool. Well then, yeah, yeah. If even a couple more people sign up, then it will definitely happen. It's just right there on that cusp right now. Yeah, I mean, so long as you're signed up like the Friday before it starts, they usually don't cancel it until like the Monday that the class starts. They wait until the last minute to cancel, so there's no rush. Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're at 11:35. I don't see anybody else in the waiting room. I'll let people in if they do pop in. Um, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we're missing I think 3 people from the full roster. But howdy and welcome to day 3 of our sort of Excel tutorial here. Click day 3 and just pop on down. I was mentioning as people were filtering in, I mentioned that I have a fair bit that I want to try to get to today. Um, that said, if at any point I'm going too fast because I'm trying to get to more stuff, just let me know. Um, just like last week, you can use the raise hand. It does make a sound, but if I'm not looking directly at the screen, I may not notice it. So feel free to just unmute yourself and just ask um, a question if you have one while I'm going through stuff. Today is styling, formatting, sorting and filtering. So just sort of all those things all together, but they do actually sort of end up all going together, and especially the way I'm planning to go through them. We're gonna take a look at that same business expenses file, um, and we're just gonna mess with that today. Um, and so these are sort of our bullet points. The hope is to make that into a slightly more useful uh, spreadsheet document, um, with some of the things we're going to do. So we're gonna change the layout of it, do some styling things there. We'll talk about how to change formatting manually. We'll do a little bit of manual formatting, but then a lot of the formatting we're going to do is going to be with this conditional formatting. So just like a lot of stuff in Excel, there is an automated way to format um, based on the data and stuff in there. And then we'll talk a bit about sorting the data and filtering the data, which is really useful when you have a whole bunch of information to get right to the stuff. Um, and then my plan is for us to talk about VLOOKUP at the end if there's time. If not, I'm just going to push it to day 4, and we'll get to it on day 4, because we should have plenty of time on day 4. But if we're able to get through all this stuff and there seems to be enough time, I'll definitely go into VLOOKUP. To start off with, there's going to be 2 different files we need. We're only going to need this second one if we end up getting to the VLOOKUP, just because this first file doesn't really lend itself to VLOOKUP very well. So if you want to follow along, feel free to click this link. It will just download the Excel file for you, which you can either open in the desktop mode, or now that it's downloaded for me, I'm going to go back up here, click Excel, and open our Excel launcher. When you click it, it may prompt you to log in if it hasn't saved your login. Ba, ba, ba. And then I'm going to click Upload and Open. So if you're using the web version, after you download it, I'm going to go to my downloads, and then this is the file, Excel1 Day 3 Tutorial Initial. Um, because after we make some changes, I'm going to rename it to final, and I'm going to post both files. So if you all want to, you can go through and look at what it started out as and then what it became and how it became that. Hi there, Susan. Um, we are, so just to catch you up really quick, um, oops, here. Uh, we're using this file here, so if you want to make your way to the website and click this, it'll download for you. And then if you want to open it in whichever version of Excel you're using, the web version or the uh, desktop version, this is the file we're sort of starting off in. Let me make it a little bit bigger there. Oh, there we go. Hopefully that's a little bit easier for y'all to see. All right. So what I've done is I've basically just reverted back to that file we were using last week that has my business expenses for the year 2018 in a format that was convenient for me at the time. So date in this column, um, there's a space in between each of these which separates out the weeks. That just made it real easier for me to navigate because I operated in sort of a week by week way. But this is not the easiest thing to go back and reference or read, and that's sort of what today is all about. Is okay, how do we make something useful, and how do we usefully access the data in there? So where I wanted to start off, right. So right off the bat, we can see that like some of this text is cut off because there's just text right beside it. So one of the things we can do is we can just resize the column. So we can see right here that column C is just way too narrow for the text that's in it. So one way to do that is you can right-click on the column itself, on the column header, and then right here you can go to column width. And then boom, you can just change the size. It's in default units, represents the number of characters that can be displayed in a cell. So 8.5 characters. You can also just change it to pixels. And so we could adjust that if we wanted to. I can make it 100 pixels wide. And there we go. Obviously, some of this stuff still doesn't fit, so it should be wider. So there's another way we can widen this. If you just put your cursor on the boundary between two columns, you can drag it over, make it as wide as you want. So I can make it real wide. And now it sort of takes up more space than it needs to. So a third way to resize, which is sort of an auto resize that will resize it so that it's the right size for all of the content. Again, put your cursor on the boundary between the two columns so that it's that sort of side-to-side arrow, that resize arrow, and then double-click. And boom, you can see it shrunk just a little bit. And now if I scroll down, we'll find the longest line here. Yeah, right there. Oregon Community Credit Union, we can see that it's just wide enough to fit that with a little bit of buffer space on the side. And that's typically what I would do if I needed to resize something, is I would just double click here and just have it auto resize. If you input a longer line of text at some point, so University of Oregon, let's say this is University of Oregon Student Affairs Department. So this is much longer now. Notice it didn't automatically update the size. So this is a static thing. It resizes for the content that is currently there, and then it'll just stay that width. So I'd have to double click that again to make it a little wider. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that though. There we go. And now if I double click, it'll shrink back up. Now I'm going to do the same thing with column D right here. I'm going to double click just to make sure everything fits. While I'm at it, I may as well do all the columns. That one apparently is the right size. And this one, oh, column A shrunk just a little bit. Um, but there we go. So we can resize there. I did that all with columns. You can also do the same thing with your rows, right? So if I wanted the row with the total, here real quick, I'm gonna um, I'm just doing a mass mute really quick just to save the background noise. Um, Feel free to unmute if you have a question or want to say something. Um, yeah, if I want to make that total column bigger to just make it more noticeable, I can drag it, or I can right click and change the row height manually, just like I did with the columns. You can also double click and boom, it'll pop it back to the correct size for the content. Yeah, so that's resizing stuff. Um, awesome. Okay. Something else we might want to do um, is insert or delete rows and or columns. Uh, so let's see. Let's say I don't like this space in between my headings and the content. I just want the data to start right beneath the headings. Right over here in the row header, I can right click or two finger click, and there's just a delete row right there. So if I delete the row, moves everything up, which means all of your formulas still end up working because it intelligently updates all of those. Unless, of course, they're absolute references, in which case it doesn't because you told it not to. Now let's say, oh, I actually do want that column there. Or that row there. I can right click and I can just do insert row and put it right back in. A cool thing is if I highlight, I'm gonna highlight 5 rows. I'm gonna highlight 5 right here. I could delete all of these at the same time because they're all highlighted. Oh, and I highlighted them all by just clicking on one and dragging, and that just selects everything in those rows, all of the columns all the way over. So I can right click and I can delete the rows. If I click insert rows though, it's going to insert 5 rows. And by default, it inserts the rows above and pushes everything down. That's a lot of extra space. I don't need it, so I'm going to Control Z and undo that and get rid of it. And then all of this is true for columns as well. Right click, insert column, delete column. When you insert a column, it's going to add it to the left and move everything to the right. Delete column. I don't have a use for this in here, but I did want to show you. There is also, if you just click in a cell, so you choose any cell and you right click in it to bring up this context menu, which there's a lot of options in here. Notice it also brings up like some formatting stuff right here. So you can just, you don't even have to go up to your formatting ribbon. You can just format that cell right here. Notice you can insert or delete right on the cell. And so if I insert, it lets me insert a row right here, and it'll insert the row above, or insert a column to the left. But you can also insert or delete an individual cell. And when you do that, it's going to have to shift things. So this right here, I could delete the cell and shift everything that's in that row to the left to fill in where I deleted the cell, or I can instead delete it and shift everything up. So notice right now it's the marketing one. If I delete it and shift up, oh, clear the filter. There is no filter. To move these cells, clear the filter from the range and try again. Before class, when I was prepping this file, I had a filter in here, and I think it still thinks there's a filter in here. So here, I'm going to make another page real quick and just sort of show you. We'll do 1, 3, 5, and we'll do 1, 2, oops, 2, 3, and now I should be able to. Oh, that did not work the way I wanted. That's okay. This will work perfectly. So now if I wanted to delete this cell right here that has a 2 in it, want to delete just that cell, I can click delete and shift left. The 2 goes away and the 3 moves in to take its place. Oftentimes, so I'm going to undo that, Control Z. Oftentimes, you don't necessarily want all of the data in your sheet to move when you delete something. So instead of deleting the cell, you can select it, make it your active cell, and then just hit the either the backspace key or the delete key. Either way, you're going to delete the content in it without moving anything around. So that's probably more often what you want, but those options to delete an entire cell and move the rest of the sheet around as you do that, those options are there. All right, I'm gonna get rid of that sheet just because it was just for grins. Oh, right. Hiding columns and rows and things like that. So you might have some extraneous data in a sheet that you don't actually want to delete. You know you might need it there, but you don't want it to display. So what you can do, let's say I want to take this first week of January there, my first week of expenses. So I'm going to click and drag and highlight all of that. Now I'm going to right click and this option hide rows. Now all of a sudden, notice over here, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it skips to 10. And it's a little bit hard to, it might be a little bit hard to see right here. Let me see if I can zoom in more. Zoom in even more. Aha, there we go. This is sort of ridiculously big. Oh my goodness. Go away. Okay, so it's a little bit hard to see, but the border between the 4 and the 10 is a little bit thicker. That's sort of our signal that there are hidden rows there, not to mention that the numbers are missing. Oops. So, click something on accident. There we go. Here we go. I want to. Oh, there we go. So what we can do is click either row above or below it and right click on it, and in the menu there will be an unhide rows. So you can just, oh, maybe we do have to highlight. So highlight everything around them. There we go. And do unhide rows. There we go. And it's back. I'm going to make this smaller again. There we go. But yeah, just an option. You can do the same thing with columns. You can hide columns. And then I believe the last piece of this, yeah, so we're messing with rows and columns. Notice when I scroll down, I lose my headings. So, this data is pretty simple. It's pretty easy to see this is a date, an amount. These appear to be locations, and these appear to be some sort of categories. What would be really nice, though, is if I didn't have to just remember that or scroll back up. So one thing you can do, I'm going to highlight all of these. Actually, can we do it in the right click menu? Okay, we can. I was hoping we could do it in the right click menu. Go. Yes, what's up? Mm-hmm. What if you highlight what if you select the cell above? So here, let me show you. So here, I'm going to hide these oops. I'm going to hide these really quick. So I'm hiding those. And now, so it's the cells 5 through 9 that are hidden. So I'm going to select cells 4 and 10, which are the bordering cells, and then right click, and if you do that, does it let you unhide them all, or does it like bring up a? It did. Perfect. Yeah, of course. No, good question. All right. So back to these headings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of these cells down to these. Actually, I don't even think I need to do that. I can just highlight or select this row. And on the view ribbon right here, there is a freeze panes option. Ba, 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 ba. So I'm going to click freeze panes. Oh, it froze above it. Okay, hot. Sorry about that, y'all. Unfreeze panes. Okay, so I'm going to select the row below it. So you want to select the row below the thing you want to freeze, and we'll see what freezing does here in a second. Freeze panes. There we go. And so now, as I scroll, notice these rows do not move. They just stay there. They're frozen, which means I can see what my column headings are no matter how far down I'm scrolled in the actual data. You can also do the same thing with rows or with columns. So, if I had a whole bunch of data, a whole bunch of columns with a whole bunch of information, and I always wanted to be able to see the date, I could select B, which is the column after what I want to freeze, and I could do, there's just a freeze first column, so I'll just do that. We'll just do freeze first column, and boom, and now when I scroll to the side, that stays right where it is. So just a useful little sort of layouty thing, unfreeze panes. All right. Okay. So we talked about resizing the columns to fit the data. However, especially if you have a lot of text in a cell, that could make your column incredibly wide. So sometimes that's not what, and oftentimes we don't want that. We want to be able to see a lot of information at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink this column back to make it so some of this text overflows or gets cut off. And what we're going to do, I'm going to select the whole column so that I can format it all at the same time. Back on the home ribbon, right here, this wrap text button, I'm going to click it, wrap text. Takes a second for it to load, and now it, just like in a Word document, it wraps the text to the next line. That is going to make any rows that have multiple lines of text, it's going to make them taller. So that's sort of the trade-off there. This gives us a good opportunity, though, to talk about sort of the alignment within the cell itself, so left, right, and up, down. So notice that in these taller rows, the text is all aligned at the bottom. Right up here, you have options to affect not only your left, right, and center alignment, but your top, middle, and bottom alignment. So I can click top, and all of that gravitates towards the top. I can click middle, and it'll just always stay in the middle of that row, no matter how tall it is. I generally prefer top alignment there, just that way as I scroll down, it's easier to see the information. Notice now, if I double click this, it doesn't stretch out because the word wrap is on, and so all the information fits. So if I didn't want those double line columns, I could go in here select it, turn off the word wrap, and now double click. So that's what I'm going to do there. It makes this column really wide, so I could go in here if I wanted to and select center to center my headings above my columns. Oh, right. One last thing about sort of manipulating cells and columns and things like that. It's not as relevant for this one. Let's say here, I'm going to insert a row up above. And let's say I want to give this whole sheet sort of a heading. So it says 2018 down here, but I wanted to give it a heading that was like 2018 business expenses. Okay, so we have that there, and it looks fine. But if I wanted to like center it above everything, which kind of looks a little nicer, what we can do, so it's flowing over into the next column because there's nothing in that column. But all of that content exists in column A here. So I'm going to select all 4 of these columns, all the columns that contain my data, and I'm going to use merge. So right here is a merge and center. That is actually what I want to do. If you use the drop-down button, there are other merge options. So merging I'm going to click it, merge and center. It turns this into one big cell that spans across all 4 of those columns, which lets me center my heading here, and then I could go in and use my formatting tools. I could change my, oh, that's a weird little bug. Weird little display bug. Oh, there it goes. Okay. I could change my heading typeface and font size like that, and really give it sort of a title. This cell, any merged cell, you can also, I guess I'll show you this. I merged across. You can also merge downwards. So now this is one big cell right there. You can also take a whole range and merge those, and now in the middle of everything, there's just one big cell here. This is really useful for formatting the layout of your sheet, especially if you're trying to make it into some sort of report or something like that. Very often we want something like a heading, or we want one sort of title over multiple spaces, and this is how you accomplish that with merge. One thing to keep in mind is that the upper right-hand cell of the merged range is the reference for that. So business expenses right here, and we'll just see how this works. It's spanning across A, B, C, and D cells all in row 1. And if I write equals A1, I get that 2018 business expenses. But if I go in here and I change it to B1, oops, that's not what I wanted. B1, notice it gives me a 0. Not super sure why right at the moment, why it gives me a 0, but it definitely doesn't give me the contents of this. Because as far as Excel is concerned, cell B1, C1, and D1 are now hidden underneath cell A1, which has been expanded to cover, to go over the top of all of them. Same thing here. Cell G1 is sort of expanded over the top of all of these, and right here, cell E8. This entire space is considered cell E8. And we just can't really put anything in any of the cells that are covered up. They just don't contain anything. I'm Control Z to unmerge these cells. Oh, I guess I could have showed you that though. So I'm going to select this one. Let's say I merged it by accident. I can just re-click the button and boom, they're all back to how they were. Same thing here. And I think that is sort of it for the moving cells and columns and rows around. Questions before I move on to the next little bit of information? Also remember that you are all muted, so if you do have a question, you'll have to unmute yourself. All right. So what I want to move into now is style formatting. We already talked about alignment information, and you saw me change the formatting of this cell. You can change formatting for anything that's selected. So let's say I wanted to change everything in my description column. I wanted all of my descriptions, for whatever reason, to be Courier New, because I think it looks like a good description font. I had them all selected Courier New, and now it changed every last one of them. So it's really fast and easy to change whole swaths of things. Here I'm going to Control Z that to get rid of it. One thing that actually is really useful as well in this way, maybe the stuff you want to style all the same isn't in the same column, in the same row, isn't all contiguous, right? Maybe you have one little thing here and another little thing over here that you want to style. What you can do, so I click that to select it, make my active cell, and you can, oops, that's not what I wanted to do, cancel. You can click and drag to select things that are next to each other, right? But so I'm going to click there, and now if I hold down the Control key and click other cells, I have all of these non-contiguous cells selected. And now I could go in and I could, say, change the font of all of those to 24, which just really messes up the formatting of my whole thing. But a useful tool. Hold down Control, click whichever cells you want, and now they're all selected, even though they're not right next to each other. I haven't actually tested. I've never needed to do this, so I don't know if it works. And I haven't tested it. I don't know if we can name these as a range. Maybe that's something I'll experiment with, or you can experiment with it on your own. I don't know if a named range has to all be contiguous cells or not. But potentially. Ooh, right. So one thing that's useful for styling, especially in sheets that just, and especially for dense ones that tend to have a lot of information, is using color in some way to differentiate information. So let's say I wanted to, it would be nice to be able to just scroll down this and at a glance see which expenses are which type, which are marketing expenses, which are like bus fare ones, things like that. And so what we can do is, so let's say marketing, and so I can go in and I can select all my marketing ones, right? And I can go in and I can change the cell color itself. So notice the background of the cell is sort of that orange. Notice these ones are a little darker. It's because they're selected, and then this is the final cell I selected, so it shows up a little lighter. I could go in and change the font color, make it white. But the way I'm doing this right now is I'm selecting each marketing expense, and now if I were to add more expenses that are marketing, they wouldn't have those colors. I'd have to remember how I styled them, have to remember exactly which color in here I chose, right? And that's just not the best way to do things. Excel will automate tasks like this for us, right? So you can go in and style things manually however you want. However, the real power comes in when we use something called conditional formatting. So let's see. Yeah. So what I want to do here is I'm going to select this entire column because this is where my descriptions are, right? And then right up here is our conditional formatting box. Why don't we just click on it? Oh yeah, so I'll just click on it and it gives us a whole bunch of options. I am going to just click Manage Rules right now, and that's just going to open up the conditional formatting window or a little sidebar right here. Um, and so conditional formatting is rules. You set up a rule for when something is formatted a specific way. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click New Rule right here. Notice it is the range it has selected is D:D, which is just the way you use range notation to say an entire column. And what I want to do, let's see, I want to highlight a cell. If the cell contains specific text. So that was one of the drop-down menus is specific text. Containing, I could also set it up to highlight cells that specifically do not contain or begin with or end with specific text. I'm just going to go containing because it's straightforward. And I'm going to put marketing in here. So if the cell contains the text string marketing, it will get formatted whichever way I choose. By default, it's already given me like this red coloration. You can click this down and it has some preset options for you, which can be kind of nice. Or you can go in here and just set it yourself. I'm going to set a light green background with a dark green font. So anything that's marketing, boom. And now every one of my marketing cells is highlighted, this green color. And if I were to go in here and go, oh, I forgot to enter an expense, so I'm going to insert a row. And so we'll go, let's say 01, 07, 18. It was $2. We'll say it was also FedEx Office, and it was marketing. Boom, it highlights it automatically for me. And now what we can do is we can go in here, select that again, and I can make a rule. So I'll have to change this to specific text containing, I can do bus fare right in there. I want to do bus fare blue. Done. Oh, there it goes. Boom. And I could do this with every one of my expenses, and then anytime I input an expense, it will automatically be highlighted for me, which makes it really easy at a glance, especially if there's expenses that don't happen very often. Bike expense on here for me is something that's not on there very often. Let's see, is there anything else I wanted to do with this? Oh, right. I wanted to. What's the best way to demonstrate this? I'm gonna right click on this sheet and I'm gonna duplicate it really quick just so we have a copy to mess with. In here, actually this will give me a good opportunity to show you how to get rid of the conditional formatting. If you highlight it, so let's say you don't have this window open, and you know you have some conditional formatting in here. Go ahead and just select the column, click conditional formatting and go over to manage rules. It'll pop open our conditional formatting sidebar again, and we can just cursor over the various rules and we can delete them. We can also duplicate them or edit them. I'll show you duplicate in a second. You could go in and edit, and let's say I spelled marketing wrong. I could go in there and fix it so that it works correctly. I'm going to go ahead and delete this, though. Um, Notice, though, I deleted those, but over here, sorry, that page is small, I'm realizing. There we go. Back here on our original page, these conditional formatting rules are still here. And so what I wanted to demonstrate with this is that conditional formatting is sheet specific. On this second sheet, they were there because I literally duplicated the sheet, which means I duplicated everything about it, including the conditional formatting rules. But once I duplicated it, those were now separate conditional formatting rules applied specifically to this sheet here. So now if I go in, for instance, let's say, what do I want to do? Yeah, I'll do bike expense. So what I'm going to do to make it a little bit easier for myself, I'm going to click duplicate. That creates a copy of this, which I can then go in and edit and very quickly change marketing to bike expense, right? I want to be able to quickly find my bike expenses, so I'm going to make those more of a red. Oh, actually, custom format. I'll make it this red that Excel itself suggests. And boom, that's there. But now if I go back over to this cell, or to this sheet, it still isn't there, and it doesn't even show up in the conditional formatting. Oh, I guess the other thing I want to show is right now this is showing us conditional formatting rules that are applied to whatever I currently have selected. So over here, because this column is selected, it shows all of these, but as soon as I click over here, they disappear because this cell does not have any conditional formatting applied to it. But if I wanted to see all of the conditional formatting on the sheet itself, I could drop this down and just say, show me all of the conditional formatting rules that are applied to this entire sheet. Oops, I did not mean to close that. Manage rules, there we go. It defaults to selection. Same thing there, and then if I go over here, I can see that in this sheet, there just are no conditional formatting rules. However, let's say I have similar sheets, but they do have different information. One's not just a copy of the other, and I've already set up all of my conditional formatting rules on this sheet, right? And I need the exact same formatting rules on another sheet. What we can do, I'm going to select the entire column, just the entire range that the conditional formatting is applied to. I'm going to right-click. I'm going to click Copy. Alternatively, you could hit Control and C. Now what we're going to do, go over to the sheet where we want to apply those formatting rules. I'm going to select whatever range. In this case, it's the same column, D. And I'm not going to Control V to paste. Instead, I'm going to right-click. And we looked at these paste options the other day as well. We just pasted values. There's the transpose that we talked about. There's also this one with the brush that pastes formatting. So I'm going to click that, and boom, it pastes all of my formatting, but it does not change any of the content. Even though these cells were all identical from the previous one, if they had been different, it wouldn't have replaced them. And actually, let me show you that. Just to double check, this is different. So that, over here, it's registration fee. Over here, it says different. I select this, right-click, paste format only, and boom. That still stays the same, but all of the formatting rules are here, and they pop up over here as well. So that is probably, if you have a bunch of similar sheets that you need formatted in similar ways, easiest way to do it is format one sheet, select everything that is relevant, copy it, and then paste just the formatting to the appropriate area on your other sheet. which is honestly probably one of the more tedious ways to go about something in Excel. So many things are pretty you can find a streamlined way to do them. But once you get into the flow, it actually does it. It's actually not too slow to copy paste just the formatting. Cool. So we have that. Conditional formatting. Ooh, right. Okay. So this was uh, using conditional formatting to just match text. Oftentimes, though, we want to apply. We want to mess with some numbers. So I'm going to go back to our original one here, and I want to apply some conditional formatting to the expenses or the amount column here. But I only want to apply it to the cells that actually have costs in here. So what I've done is I've clicked B to select the entire column. Now I'm going to hold down Control and click all of the cells that I don't want as part of my selection, and it sort of reduces the range down to just these. That way I don't have to, because the other option is to select this and like hold down Shift and just arrow down to like the bottom of this, which is well over 100 cells. So yeah, so I'm going to select that, and then I'm just going to, oops, not do that. There we go. So hold down Control and select the cells I don't want selected. So there you go. And now I want to make a new rule. So now that I have this selected, I'm going to go over here, click New Rule. It automatically selects the range I had selected. I had literally everything in the column selected. So from B6 to B1,048,576, apparently. I could adjust that if I wanted to. I could just make it go to B 200. Feels a little bit more reasonable. But if I wanted it to apply to everything in that column, may as well go down as far as I can. There you go. So that's our range. What I want to do here is I'm going to change our rule type. I'm going to use this top or bottom. I want to highlight the largest expense in the column, just so I can quickly find it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select top. Our options are top, bottom, above or below average, or average and above, or average and below. I'm just going to select top really quick. I'm just going to select one. For the one top expense, and we're going to make the background yellow, and I'm just going to make the text black. Click done. And now, there we go. 194 at Hutch's, apparently, yeah, was my largest expense. We could do a similar thing so I could go in here and duplicate this. If I wanted to find the smallest one, I could change this to bottom. If I wanted to highlight all of my expenses, which are sort of above my average expense, so all of the largest ones, I'll just select above average, and I'm going to make these not quite as noticeable. I want to be able to see them, but just a sort of a pale yellow there. And go done. And now, check it out. All of my larger expenses are automatically highlighted. Because I've applied this to the entire column, if I add a new expense, if it fits this condition, it'll get highlighted. If it happens to be higher than this 194, wherever that was, there it is. If it happens to be higher than that 194, this one, Excel will remove the highlighting from this one and highlight the new big expense. For instance, let's just make this $200. Boom. That one's highlighted now. And 194 is still highlighted pale yellow because it's a large expense, but it's not the largest expense. Right? So yeah, so those are some of our tools, ways that sort of conditional formatting can just pop data out for us so we can see it really quickly. I did want to point out really quick that there is an order in which Excel applies these formatting rules. So really quick, I'm going to click this one and drag it above the other one. And now notice what happens. The highlighting on my 200 cost goes away. And the reason for that is because Excel applies these formatting rules from bottom to top. And so it did highlight the 200 expense, but then that highlighting is superseded by this formatting rule right here. So now if I grab this and just drag it back down to change the order, now that formatting pops out because it's going to highlight all of the above average expenses first, and then it's going to come through and find the most expensive one and highlight that one and overwrite any previous formatting. So that's just something to be aware of, especially if you have multiple conditional formatting rules and the things you want styled in a certain way just aren't showing up. That might be a reason. You might need to reorder your conditional formatting rules. No, all I did was mess with color. Notice that you can make something bold, italic, underlined, double underlined. You can strike it through. This right here is borders. So if you wanted to just add like a border around something, you can do that. So I'm going to change the border color to like this bright red. Oh, I have to actually apply a border though. So these are the different sections of your border. So no border, you can select just the bottom piece of the border, left, right, top, bottom, or you can select, all of the borders. Wow, it is bugging out. There we go. Select all of them. You can see it applies the border right in there. Does it also give us, yeah, border style here? Apparently it only has the 3 options. I think the desktop version might have more options or might let you customize the border like thickness. But there we go. Red border, and click done. And now boom, it puts a little red border around that cell. Highlight cells with rule. Ooh, haha, right. Okay, so this is all well and good to highlight a single cell, but sometimes the thing we actually want to do is highlight an entire row to really call our attention to a row based on information in just one of the cells in that row. So for instance, just to make it really noticeable, maybe I don't want to just highlight only this cell for the largest expense. Maybe I want to highlight the entire row to really call it out, make it show up as different, even override the green on here. So what we can do, we're gonna have to change our rule here a little bit. So I'm actually going to, let's see, I'm going to delete that one, and I'm going to make a new rule here. The range I want to apply it to, though, is A6 to D, I'm going to say D200. I think there's only like 113 rows in this, so I want to go down a little further so that anything else I insert also gets this rule. So for this, it's going to be a little bit more complicated. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a formula. Here we go. And so right here, it's the formula we want to use. So we're going to do an equal sign, because that's how we tell Excel you need to like calculate something, you need to figure something out. So what I want to figure out is if the cell in column B, so I'm going to do an absolute reference to column B, because I only want this to apply to column B. I don't want it to apply to any other columns. But I'm going to start with B6, but I'm not making the 6 an absolute reference because I want it to change which cell it's looking at for each row. If cell B6 is greater than or equal to, let's just say greater than or equal to, 200, um, I want to highlight it. And so now if I hit done over here, boom, there, now our entire row is highlighted. So that's a little bit more advanced. It requires this formula. But basically, you can set whatever condition you want. You just have to tell Excel uh, where should it look, um, and this is a little tricky to parse. It's telling it look in column B, only look in column B for the range up here, but look in each row of column B. And then you just tell it what are we looking for? What do we want to be true? Let's say I wanted to, instead of highlighting the biggest expense, I wanted to highlight. I'm just looking at it, bus fare right there. If it contains bus fare, I want to highlight the whole row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here, and instead of column B, I'm going to do column D. Start with row 6 because that's where the oops, that's not what I meant to do. Start with column 6 because that's where my data starts, and I want to look and see where that cell is equal to. And I'm going to put this in quotes because if you want it to match text, you have to put it in quotes so it knows that you're talking about a text string. I'm just going to type bus fare. And then boom. Ah, there we go. Bus fare that way. But then notice all of these are complete. The entire row is highlighted based only on the contents of one of the columns. This is probably one of the more typical ways that conditional formatting gets used. It's useful to highlight a single cell, but often we want to highlight the entire column or the entire row that cell is in. So boom, we got that. We can differentiate all of our categories there. And we talked about the order that these are applied in. Actually, this is another place where I can. So notice I have a rule here that bus fare should be blue, but I have this other one that tells me that bus fare, everything should be red for bus fare. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drag this one up here to the very top. And now notice it highlights the entire row red except for bus fare, which it still makes blue because that's the color I assigned to it. I don't know why we would make them two different colors, but again, we can sort of see that order of the conditional formatting working. Cool. That's most of the stuff for conditional formatting. Obviously, we didn't go through like all of these options here because some of them just don't apply to this data. But I want to give you enough that like you could go, if you really wanted to look at how do the color scales and conditional formatting work, Google it, go on to YouTube. There will be videos or tutorials that will walk you through exactly how color scales work, things like that. Basically, you can assign a range of colors and put like 0 to 10, make 0 yellow and make 10 red, and then it will apply a gradient in between there based on the values as they're between 0 and 10, things like that. Data bars, things like that. But yeah, this is our sort of our intro to conditional formatting there. Any questions about that, or anything you'd like to see, or anything that seems funky or strange? All right. We are at 6:30. I think we're making good time. That's the stuff that like really took a bunch. I think the rest of this is going to go kind of quick. Okay. What I would like to move into now is talking about, I'm going to close this, cell data types. So, for instance, we can see that this is this is a date, this is money. These two columns are just plain text. They don't have anything special about them. Excel recognizes certain types of data, like say money. So like when I double click in here to edit this, go on, it gets rid of the dollar sign. If I change it to 48 and hit enter, it inserts the dollar sign back because it knows that this cell contains currency values. That's what those numbers represent. They represent currency values. This is a date. This spreadsheet was actually created in Google Sheets because that's the spreadsheet software I prefer to use. And in Google Sheets, it will let me use a period as a separator for dates. Excel does not like a period as a separator in dates, which means Excel does not recognize these as dates right now, which means I can't get it to do any special formatting. So for instance, I just have this one cell selected. This should be the 2nd of January 2018. What I want to do is I'm going to go up here to this drop-down menu. So we're still on our home ribbon. This drop-down menu, which you can use to tell Excel how to format the numbers. I'm going to go to more number formats here, and there's just even more here. I'm going to go down to date. So even though I am telling Excel that this is a date right now, and I want it to format it with slashes, when I click OK, it doesn't change anything because it just can't recognize that as a date. So here's what we're going to do. Before we can get Excel to format that date for us in various ways, we need to change the way that cell looks. But in fact, we need to change the way all of the cells look. We need to replace all of the periods with slashes. That's like 100 rows, which you could do by hand, but it is going to be tedious and it's going to take a while. This is one of my favorite things to do with Excel, actually, is use it to reformat data. So what we're going to do, let's see, so really any place in here, I'm selecting column F just because it's slightly removed. I'm going to do equals, and I'm going to start typing. I'm looking for the substitute function. So it's there. I'll click it and it'll auto-complete there. So the substitute function, it replaces existing text with new text in a text string. That's exactly what I need to do. So first I have to tell it where is the text that I want to change. Right now that text is in cell A6, right there, and it highlights it. And we can see that it highlights it. I'll do comma, and now I need to tell it what is the old text, what is the original text that I want to display, that I want to replace. So because it's a text string, I need to put this in quotes. So quote, period, end quote. That's the text that I'm looking for. Hit comma, and it wants to know the new text. So, and again, I want to replace it with a string. So quote, and I want to replace it with a slash. End quote. There's one more variable or one more parameter in this function, which is the instance num, which just lets you specify how many instances you want to replace. But notice it's in brackets, it's optional. I want to replace all of them, which is this function's default behavior. So I'm just going to close the parentheses there. There it is, 02/0 or 01/02/18. So if I select this and tell Excel that it's a date, I told it it's a long date, it didn't change anything. I'm going to go over here and tell it, hey, make it look like this. Or actually, yeah, I want the long day. I want it to put the day of the week in there, everything. It's still not changing it. Because again, it doesn't recognize this as a date because it is a function call. So one last thing we need to do here. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. There we go. Is I'm going to copy this. So either right-click copy or hold down Control and hit C to copy it. And in the cell right next to it, I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to paste the value only, which means paste only what's actually displayed in the cell I can click that. Our other option is to hold down Control, hold down Shift, and hit V. Control Shift V. There we go. Notice now it pasted it a little differently. Once I pasted this as a value, Excel automatically, I didn't even have to tell it, Excel automatically recognized this as a date because of those slashes in it. And now this is just pure text. There's no function here, which means if I delete this, this stays there. I'm going to undelete that, Control Z to undelete that. So I changed that, and that I pasted it right here. I pasted the value right here. I'm going to go copy. Really where I want to put it is right here, paste value only. And boom, it's a date. But what I want to do is I want to do it for everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this, grab the handle right here, right, the little box in the lower right corner, look for my cursor to become sort of the thinner plus, and I'm going to drag this down all the way to the bottom of my data, right there, and boom, it applies that formula, that function, to all of my data. Now that it's all highlighted, I can right-click on it and copy, or I can hold down Control and hit C to copy it. And now, I'm just going to, right here, I'm just going to go right-click and go Paste Values Only. And I didn't even have to select all of that. Excel's smart enough to know that if you have a whole range selected and you click a cell to paste it into, what you want to do is paste the whole range starting with that cell. And now, all of these are correctly formatted dates for Excel. And now I can go back over here and select all of this and just hit delete, get rid of all of it. All of this stays over here. And get rid of this one too. Delete right there. I did Control Z to bring them back because I want to leave this in here for you all if you want to look at this file later, so you can see what that function looks like right there. Now though, now that we have dates there, I'm going to click and then I'm going to unselect all of those. So I only have my data selected there. And I'm going to go up here to more number formats, go down to date, and now I can I could put like the day of the week in there. Oh, it's because I only had. Oh, sorry, that's on me. I selected that poorly. Let's just do. There we go. And we'll go more number formats. Notice there's a whole bunch of options you can choose here. If I didn't want to display the year, since I already said that it's 2018, I can just select month and day. And why aren't you changing? Short date. E6. Something's acting funky. Oh, there it goes. Oh, interesting. The way this pasted in, it pasted all as text, and as soon as I edit it and hit enter, then it sees it as a date. How do I get it to... All right. How do I get it to do that automatically? Select it as text. Change it to a short date. Date. Interesting. Hmm. I have all of those changed, and so now if we go in here, boom. Okay, that's really all I wanted to show you is just the changing the type of data that is in a cell. Um, this is acting funky. Um, I think it's just bugging out on this particular file because I when I was preparing, I went through exactly this and it formatted just fine. So I think I might have something in this file that is preventing it from uh, recognizing. So rest assured, in your own files, it should, so long as you have it formatted with slashes ahead of time, when you input it, you should be able to go in and change the formatting to whichever option you prefer. Um, so you go in there and say OK. Um, I may have had, before I pasted stuff in here, I may have had uh, A, column A, formatted in a strange way, and so it's just bugging out. But suffice it to say, that's how we do it. Um, oh, ha! Notice, this is funny. These cells are still referring over to these, and so now, um, that is strange. Um, it's changing the numbers. This is the date in as the type of number that Excel recognizes it as. Don't worry about that. Um, that's just a little funky thing. Okay, so we have that part. Yeah, sorry about the little error there, but it should work just fine on like a fresh sheet. What else did I want to do with this? I think that's it. Yeah, that's the main thing I want to show you. Um, so similar, like in column B here, which has dollar amounts. Oops. We can go in um, and we can change um, the type of currency it is. Because these have decimals, we can tell it to decrease the number of decimals it displays. Oh, it doesn't want to because right now it's set to dollars. So here, I'm just going to change this to a general number. Notice that the dollar sign goes away, and now I can. There we go. Does it just not have enough room? Well, my sheet appears to be bugged in some way. That is weird. Here, let me try it with just one of them. Ah, there we go. I think it might be because there's this other text in here, so it doesn't like that. So let's see if I select some of this other stuff. Oh yeah, there we go. So I just unselected the cells that have text in them, and we can increase or decrease the number of decimals it shows. Um, we can have it put commas in um, for every third place value. Um, or we can go in here and tell it uh, these are dollars. Notice it still has the comma in there because I told it to put the comma in there. Right now it's set to accounting, which is why the dollar sign is pushed all the way to the left. I can change it to currency, and it will pull the dollar sign in next to the number value. You apparently cannot turn off the comma, though. What we'd have to do is go into number formats, go into currency. Um, there we go. Get rid of that and change it back to currency. Oh, the currency inserts the comma. I see why that wasn't going away. Okay, cool. Anyway, so yeah, different ways to auto format the numbers. What's really nice is that if you have a column that you know you're going to be putting, say, dollar values into, or actually even percentages. Let's say percentage. So I've just highlighted all of column I as percentages. So now if I go in and I put in 0.25, oh, I see. It's even better than I thought it was. So it automatically inserts that percentage sign for you, 25.0. If I put 0.35 in there, it turns into 35%. Start typing, 63.25 or 0.6325. There we go, 63.25%. Um, so yeah, so a useful thing to do to get columns to automatic or rows, a range of any sort, to automatically format in the correct way for you. I'm just going to get rid of those though, so they don't cause any confusion later on. Cool. All right. We have that stuff. Ba, 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 ba. Oh, sorting is what I wanted to do next. Um, questions about that? I know it was a little confusing with this stuff down here not working, but I'm like 98% sure that that's just my sheet. It should normally work. Any questions about that? Okay. All right. So, uh, what I want to do here is go to this one where the formatting isn't isn't as messed up. And so I'm going to mess with this one. So if we want to sort our values here, um, what we need to do is select the area that we want to sort. So I'm just going to select this entire range. Actually, you know what? Let me show you what happens if I don't select the entire range. That'll be good. So right now, this is in value in date order, in chronological order, right? But let's say I wanted to sort it by dollar amount. What we could do is I'm going to select this whole column, and then I'm going to unselect the things that are not part of this data. There you go, all the dollar values. And there's a couple of ways to do this. There is a sort and filter button up here, and so I could just click sort ascending. So it'll just go from smallest to largest. When I do that, I get a pop-up because it recognizes, it's like, wait a second, the way you have this data in here, that $50 probably corresponds to state of Oregon. So you don't want to just rearrange this column, or else your dollar values are going to get all mixed up with your payees and your descriptions. So it prompts us to expand and sort. What that's going to do is it's going to say, okay, I'm going to sort everything based on this column, but it's going to expand it. Oh, interesting. I don't know why it didn't do that one. But notice it grabbed everything and it kept the date and the payee with the expenses. And now they are in dollar order. I'm not actually sure why it didn't grab 50 there. Let's try that again. There we go. Sort and filter. Sort ascending, expand and sort. Yeah, I think it's with the expand and sort there. However, that's not really the best way to do this. Instead, what we want to do is we want to, instead of having Excel sort of jump in and say, it looks like what you're trying to do might be a mistake. We want to set up sort of intentionally from the beginning. So I'm going to highlight this and then highlight all the way down. Oops, there we go. And select all of my data here. Oh my gosh. It is a little bit of a pain to select my scroll bar. There we go. Okay, I have that. So sort and filter. Notice what happens if I just, from the get-go, select sort ascending. It didn't really change too much because it's assuming I want to sort based on the leftmost column. So I'm going to hit Control-Z to undo that. Notice it also gets rid of all of the spaces in there. So if I'm like, oh, the spaces were useful when I was making this, but I don't want them anymore, sorting is just a quick way to get rid of them. So if instead what I want to do is sort by this middle column here, what we can do, now that it's all selected, I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to sort. Oh, actually, I think this option was in here. Oh, it is. Okay, yeah. So you don't have to right click. You can just go to the menu. I'm going to go to custom sort. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring up the sorting window, which is super useful. Oh, look at that. Notice that it unselected that top row. What? Oh, I know why it did it. I know what it was doing before. Okay. Custom sort. It's because my data has headers is checked. If I uncheck that, it is just going to assume that you have some sort of headings on your columns. So by default. So I'm going to unclick that, and that's why the auto sort or the quick sort wasn't including this top one because it just assumed it was a header. All right. So we want to tell it what column do we want to sort by. We want to sort by column B, which has our dollar amount in there. Notice it can sort based on formatting options, cell color, font color. We're going to sort on cell value, and then we have the option of ascending and descending. And I'm going to do that, and boom, now it grabbed everything, and this is now in order of expense rather than chronological order. We could also do, I'm going to do Control-Z. Custom sort. I want to sort by I'm going to uncheck that. There we go. I want to sort by column D, which is actually the category, the description. It's going to do that, and now it just has everything grouped together. All the business supplies expenses, all the marketing expenses, all grouped together for me. Again, not in chronological order. So yeah, sorting is honestly pretty straightforward. One of the biggest issues that you can run into is not highlighting the entire range, not selecting the entire range that you want to sort. So if you only select part of a sheet to sort, it should throw up an error that says, are you sure you only want to sort this part because there's other data next to it? But if it doesn't, it'll only sort what you select, which could mix up your data. But remember, pretty much anything you do in Excel, so we sorted this and say when I was like, oh shoot, I sorted that wrong. Hold down Control, hit Z, or hit your undo button up there, and we can just go right back to where we were. Boom. Okay. So those are sort of our options to sort. There is also oops, I don't have the right thing selected. There we go. There is a sort function, which you can use. So we tell it what we want it to sort. So the very first thing we tell it is the range we want it to sort. So it's going to be A6 all the way to D. I believe this goes down to 114 is how far this goes down. Oops. And then hit a comma. It tells us a number indicating the row or column to sort by. That is based on, so in this case, it's not based on A, B, C, D or 6, 7, 8. It's based on the column of your selection. So this is column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. So if we want to sort by, say, dollar amount again, I can say 2. Sort order, this is just a 1 for ascending, a -1 for descending. So those are the only two options. Oh, and then this last one is, do you want to sort by row or by column? By default, it's column, so I'm just going to end it there. And boom. Notice what it's done. It has copied all of the data and essentially pasted it. Oh, I went way too. Oh, all of those zeros are from all of the blank spaces. That's funny. So chances are I wouldn't want to do this on one page or on the same sheet that my data's on. So I'm going to click in here. I'm going to highlight all of this and cut it. Notice when I delete that one cell, all of the data disappears because that one cell is creating all of that data. More often, what we would probably want to do is have a sheet that has like all of our data in whatever order it's already in. And in a new sheet, we'd be like, okay, all the data's here and it's in whatever order it came in. But on this sheet, I want it sorted by, oh, huh, I forgot to tell it to do 2018 parenthesis 2. I forgot to do the sheet reference. It was looking on this sheet for that, for those values. Don't you like? I think it might want single quotes. There we go. Yeah, it wanted single quotes. And boom, now we have all the data from this sheet, but in descending order by cost. Notice it didn't copy any formatting or anything like that. It's literally just copying the data. So this is probably something you would do early on in your process where you just get raw data. Actually, this is a good point for me to mention just a good best practice. If you have some sort of data, and it comes in a file, maybe it's a CSV file, maybe it's already a spreadsheet file, but you just have sort of your raw data. It doesn't really have any formatting. What I would often suggest is it's going to be in a sheet. Just make a copy of that sheet, and that way you can keep your raw original data untouched. And then you can still, on other sheets, you can refer to it. But it's always kind of a good idea to essentially create a backup of your data, right? In case something wonky happens. That way you can always go back to it. An additional thing you can do if you want to create that backup and you want to preserve it is if you right-click on a sheet right there, you can hide a sheet. And now it's gone. Which means you can't click on it, you can't accidentally delete it. What you have to do to get to it is click this right here, which is the All Sheets button. Wait a second. Why is it not in there? I think we want View. That's strange. Why did that not show up in there? Give me 1 second. Oh, they changed it. Okay, that's why. So once upon a time, that sheet would have been in here as well, but it would have been italicized to show that it was hidden, and then you could click on it, and that would pop it back out. It looks like what they've done is now, if you just right-click on any tab in here, there's an unhide option as well, which is just going to bring up the hidden sheets, and you can select which ones you want to unhide. I feel like that's a little bit clunkier, requires more clicks, but there it is. Yeah, so yeah, if you have a sheet in with your original data, right-click, duplicate it, and then hide the original is kind of a best practice. Oops, wrong tab there. All right, we sorted data. We use the sort function to bring data in from another sheet and put it in here already pre-sorted. That's pretty much everything with sorting. Questions there before I move on to filtering? All right. So, so sorting is just changing the order based on some criteria. Filtering lets us actually display only the information that we care about. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, again, select our data here, and I'm going to unselect, actually, can I just unselect this whole thing? There we go. Unselect the pieces that are not part of our data, and now we have this, including the headings. Notice that I still have the headings selected. And we're just going to go over here. Oh, sorry, I lost my tab. There we go. To our sort and filter button. So they just have them nicely grouped. And we just have a filter option. So right here we can click filter. And notice it doesn't really change anything, but it does add these drop-down arrows to each of the headings. So now what we can do, let's say I only want to see my marketing expenses. I'm going to click here. And, oh, sorry. Click there, and it brings up the filter menu. So right down here, it shows all of the different items that are in this column. There are blank spaces, just because of how I have it formatted. But then these are all my different categories. So I'm going to select marketing and hit apply. And boom, it only shows me the marketing expenses. Oh, I still have some columns, some rows hidden. That's funny. Okay, there we go. Which means, yeah, here, I'm gonna undo that. There we go. It only shows me my marketing expenses. I could then also go in, I could click on the amount column. And so notice it has sort of all the different prices. So what we might want to do here is, instead of selecting things like this, we might want to go to the number filters, and we could say we only want to show marketing expenses that are greater than, and it brings up a little window here, greater than 10. And there we go. Now I'm showing only marketing expenses that are greater than 10. Notice the little drop-down menu here changed, the little drop-down icon. It has a little filter icon to say, oh, this data is currently filtered by this column. It's also currently filtered by this column. And then I could drop this down. Within our filtering, there's also a sort. So now I could also sort it smallest to largest, and it sorts all of that for me. So I'm only seeing my marketing expenses that are greater than $10. And then that. So this one, I guess I do want to show this on this sheet. I wish I could get these to cooperate, but I feel like there's no good way to, here, give me one. Let me see if I can. Um, all right, give me just a second. I'm just going to go in and do at least a couple months of this. All right, that's a little tedious. All right, on this one, I'm going to go down here. I'm just going to highlight down to the ones I've formatted because I want to show you what the filtering looks like for the dates because it is handy. All right, notice same thing happened. It added these little drop-down menus. So on date, now that these are all formatted as dates, so that's one of the reasons I want to change the formatting is so that it recognizes them as dates because um, it recognizes the year, and so it shows me 2018. If I had multiple years in here, it would break it down per year, and so I could display only 2018, only 2019. But it also then recognizes the months. I can break that down then too and select only certain days of those months, but I could also just have it display only the March expenses. And boom, there are only our March expenses. Ignore this stuff down here because the date isn't formatted correctly. Um, and yeah, we have that. Notice over here, it's essentially what it's doing is it's just hiding the rows that don't fit the filter criteria. So notice that we bounce from 22 to 24 to 26. And then if I want to, I can go down here, unselect this, do select all so everything's there. And then everything pops back in. We could also, let's say I didn't want the option to filter by payee. Oh, no, never mind. They got rid of that. Or maybe it's in the, it might be in the, it might be in the desktop version, but not this version. But yeah, so those are our filters. You select what you want to filter, including your headings, because if you don't select your headings, it'll put these boxes in your top row because it's just going to assume your top row is your heading. So yeah, select everything including your heading, and then just tell it to create filters. One other thing we can do here that I will show, which is kind of nice, I'm going to go back to this one since this has all the data in it. If I want to get rid of these, you can just select clear filter and clear filter, and there we go. Notice it still has an up arrow in it because it's still sorted. So what we probably want to do is sort by this one. There we go. All right. The other thing I wanted to show you is, so let's filter again. Let's do. I want to see all my small expenses. So I want to see all my expenses that are less than $5. Okay, there we go. What we can do now that I've filtered that, this sheet view right here is really nice. So I'm going to click New Sheet View, and notice it makes all of our column and row headers black, and it brings up a new menu. It moves us over to the View ribbon is really all it does. And it calls this a temporary view. I'm going to name this Minor Expenses. And I'm going to click Keep. All right. What I've done is I have now saved this view of the expenses. So if I ever want to get back to my minor expenses, So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, I'm going to exit. There we go. So we're back at home. I'm going to unfilter this. I'm going to clear that filter right there. Everything's back. And now I can go over to view, and this sheet view, that's still there. And notice it now has that minor expenses there. I'm going to click it, and all of a sudden it just auto sorts and brings me back to that minor expenses view, which can be really nice, especially if you're doing multiple things. So like if I wanted it to be like minor marketing expenses or something like that, all right, it's only those two. So I can rename this minor marketing expenses, like that. And then we'll go through and we'll clear our filters, right? And now, I want to exit. There we go. And now I can go back, minor marketing expenses. Oh, that's my bad. I saved it after I undid all of my filtering. Son of a gun. All right. So we have to do anyway. I think we get the idea. You can save a particular filter setup that you've made and go back to it at any time. Ooh, what are we at? Okay, we got like 5 minutes left. I did also want to show, so just like with sort, there is a filter function. So filter function. So we can do the same thing here. We can go, I want to filter everything from A5 to D114, I believe is as far as it goes. Oops. And now this is this piece is a little tricky. In order to tell it what we want it to filter, we have to tell it where to look and sort of what to look for. So each filter item is going to go in its own set of parentheses. So I want to look in cells D5 to D114, which I believe is the bottom. And what I want to look for is I want to look for the cells that are equal to, as in they contain, marketing, like that. And now I'll close that. In parentheses, that is a single filter item. And then the last parameter in here is our if empty, as in if the filter doesn't return anything, what do you want it to do? So you could just enter an empty string, which is its default, or you could enter no data or something like that if you want it to pop up a message. It's like there's no data based on that filter. Now I'm going to hit enter, and boom, again, here are all of our marketing expenses. Again, probably not a thing you want to do on the same sheet that the data is on. So here's what we can do. I'm going to create a new sheet again. I'm going to call this sheet Jan for January. And I'm going to go equals filter. And what I want to filter is, I believe, oops. Yeah, this one, the 2018 one, from A6 to A35. Okay. Equals filter 2018 exclamation point, because I'm talking about the sheet 2018, A6 to A33 is, I believe, what we said. So that's what I want to filter. What I want to look for is in that first column. So this isn't A6 to A33. This is to D33 because um, I want to filter the entire data table there. But in column A, so from A6 to A33, so just in column A, what I want to look for, I want to look for two things. I want that date to be greater than or equal to 01/01/2018. So that's the date. I want another data condition. I want it to be with before January 31st, though. So I'm basically filtering by month here. So the way we tell it to do an and is with the asterisk there. And so I'm going to say the same thing, A6 to A33 now needs to be less than or equal to 01/31/2018. Close those parentheses, close the parentheses on my function, and enter there. Ooh, what don't you like? Empty arrays are not supported. Give me 1 sec. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, after that D33? No, we want a comma there because this is just separating those. This is just telling it where we want it to look. So this is this part. I think it is. It's giving me a calc error. What's it trying to calculate? I might have a formatting issue in here. A6, A33, A6, A33. Oh, huh. Again, I need to put the 2018 exclamation point here and the 2018 exclamation point to tell it, don't look at A6 through A33 on this sheet, look at A6 through A33 on the 2018 sheet. I just forgot to do the sheet reference. No, what are we doing? Empty arrays are not supported. 2018, 2018, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, here, let me try something really quick. 01/01/2018, okay, 01/31/2018. Okay, there's that. Instead of just referring to these dates as text, I'm going to reference the cell that contains them. It should work because it's the same thing, but H1, and now we'll go over here and we'll do I1. There we go. I may have needed to format the date in a specific way inside that function, but notice it brought the dates in as numbers, but we can fix that pretty easily by going here and telling it that these should be dates. There we go. Now they look like dates. Telling it that these should be currency. Now they look like currency. And what we have here is I've taken from the entire year's worth of expenses, I have filtered out only January's expenses. And so this is a method we could use to split our entire year's expenses into separate sheets that contain each month's expenses, which I partially did last week, but I did it all manually by copy and pasting. And so this is the automated way to do that. And now if more expenses were added to this sheet that happened to fall in January, um, they would automatically get included in this sheet right here because this function uh, is always trying to filter the range on the 2018 sheet. Nice. Yeah, sorry about that little bug there at the end. Um, but yeah, that is everything actually. We didn't get to VLOOKUP, but that's okay. I kind of didn't think I had in my head that we might not. So we will that's basically where we'll start next week. And so the plan for next week is VLOOKUP now. And then we're going to talk about presenting data. Um, and so it'll be a little bit more of stuff like this about collecting stuff and consolidating things. But then we're also going to talk about, okay, you have all this different data. How do you present it in a nice way with like a chart and a graph? So we'll talk about how we insert charts and graphs. And then that's it. That'll sort of be everything. My hope is next week to also have some time for y'all to just, if you have specific Excel questions or particular things you're working on that you could be like, hey, I'm trying to get it to do this thing. How do I get it to do that? And that sort of thing. But that is all I have for tonight. I kept you a little long. Sorry about that. But yeah, feel free to stick around if you have questions or if you want to ask me anything. But otherwise, that's it. And we have one more day left of this. But yeah, please sign up for Excel2 if you feel like if you want to keep continuing after this. Like, mm-hmm. No, I don't. I don't have an Excel 3 class that I've built yet. Um, I don't. It's not even really a project on my agenda just yet. But for any of you that are beyond Excel 3, Excel 2, um, let me know if there's additional things you want to work on or look at because I do offer just outside of this just like one-on-one Excel tutoring. Um, yeah, so that could be an option if there's really specific stuff you need to accomplish in Excel. No problem. Yeah. Have a good night. Hmm. No problem at all. Yeah. Um, what is that? Weird little pop-up thing. Um, how's it going, Linda? Anything I can help you with? You're muted right now. Yeah, you can share your screen. So here, let me turn off my screen share. So at the bottom of the chat, or the bottom of the video chat, there's a rectangle with an up arrow in it. You're going to want to click on that. Then, then it's going to ask you what you want to share. I would just say click your entire screen. And then it's going to bring up a window where you have to actually click on your screen and then hit the share button. Well, click on the little picture of your. It should pop up a little picture of your screen in the window. So you click on the picture of your screen, and it should put a little blue box around it, and then you can click the share button in the lower right of that little window. But from the video chat, Give me more about that question. What do you mean the size of your sheet? Um, Here, I'm sharing my screen again so y'all can see. So okay. Um, so when you say smaller, so like the way that I'm like zoomed in. Oh, um, right. So all you basically like you have a whole bunch of columns that you don't need, is what you're saying. So one thing you can do. So I'm going to click on I to select I, and then you could click and drag all the way over to select them, but that's going to be kind of slow. So click on I, or whatever your starting column, the first column that you don't want is. Hold down Shift, um, and oops, I'm not clicked here. There we go. Hold down Shift and hit the right arrow, and actually, if you hold down Shift and Control and hit the right arrow, it'll go all the way over to all of the sheets all of the columns that exist, and now all of these are selected. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to right click and I'm going to click delete columns, and it's going to take it a second because that's a lot of columns. Um, did I not delete them? Oh. Will it not let us do that? Oh, you know what it's doing? So every time I delete them, it just creates new blank ones to take their place. Uh, so I think what's happening is it does not. Here, give me one. Let me try something really quick. Um, there's that. Let's click. Yeah. So it looks like it always maintains the same number of columns. So a different option for us. Um, so Google Sheets will let you just delete columns, and it'll just let you have a sheet that's only, say, 5 columns wide or something like that, or 10 columns wide or whatever you want. But it looks like Excel just always maintains the same number of columns and rows. Um, so one thing you can do, if you just don't like the look of all of those blank columns over there, is we can just change the formatting of them. So again, I'm going to select the first column I don't want, hold down Control, hit Shift, hit the right arrow, so I select everything over there. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to change say the color to like a light gray, which actually happens to be the same shade as the little cross, um, the little grids. Um, but we can also, if you didn't want to make it that color, you can make it any color you want, because you can then also, um, uh, oh, can we only get rid of the grid lines for? This is why I like Google Sheets a little bit better. Is it? You could do a little more things. Let's see, grid lines. Yeah, grid. You can't turn off grid lines for only specific sections. So that's basically, I guess, the best option we can do is something like that. And now this stuff is clearly blank. It all te- it technically still exists, but it's much more clearly not part of the sheet. And then you could even at the edge here for H, if we go back over to home, we could go to our borders and select the right hand border right here. So right border. Um, and then border color, border style. Let's see. We could make like a thick border or something just to really show that this is the edge of this. So I think that's our option with Excel. It looks like it doesn't like to delete. Uh, uh, it doesn't like to make the sheet smaller at all, unfortunately. So you have to do it with formatting. Yeah, sorry, it's not a better solution, but yeah, that's that's what it'll do. Um, yeah, it just uh, it creates um, it's not an infinite, it's not a limitless, but it's way bigger than most people will ever really need. Um, yeah, so I get that. Um, yeah, yeah, no problem. Yeah, I will plan to see you next Tuesday. No problem. Uh, Jim, you had something you wanted me to look at. Yeah. So again, yeah, that box with the up arrow. Oh. Okay. Yes, I can see that. I can. Yes. Okay. Sure. Uh huh. Uh huh. Yeah. So yeah, this is the same file you just opened. You tried to open it from the shortcut. I do. Yes. That is a good question. That is strange. Here, let me see. Over what? No, no, I can't. I can't control your cursor through this. But here, give me one second. I'm sort of looking into this. Um, Actually, here let's try something. Uh, Go to File, and I want you to save. You're gonna go to File and Save As. Save this. Uh, change the name of it to something easy. You can just add a number to it or something. Um, yeah, test. Um, and save it wherever would be easy to access for sure. Yeah, exactly. And go ahead and close this down. Perfect. Yep, right there. Oh. I mean, I should be in your browser somewhere. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, double click that one. I want to see what happens if. Honestly, I'm not sure why that's happening. It's very weird, but I'm just troubleshooting it now. I'm just. It's not there. Okay, so go ahead and close this down. And now just open Excel like you were going to open it the way that you found out works. Yeah. Um, but go ahead once it opens. Here, we'll give it a sec. What? Click on the one that's not highlighted right now. What is that doing? Oh, I see. Okay. Uh, Here, click that. Yeah. Here. Wait, hold on a sec. I want before you do that because we're pretty sure that'll work because it works on the other file. So, uh, actually, really quick, close the other Excel window. Go down there and click that. Yeah, close that other Excel window. Yeah, yeah, just go ahead and close it completely. Is it going to close the other one too? Oh, it will. Okay, then let's not. Okay, that's weird that it opens two windows. Okay, go ahead and minimize it though, and um, minimize that one too. And now open the file from either the test or the original one from the desktop like that. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Wait a second. Hold on. Okay, in your top bar up there, kind of next to the save button all the way at the top. So the top left. Yeah, see that lock icon? Go up further, all the way at the top there, and to the right just a little bit. Keep going over. There's a lock icon. Yeah, lock the selected cells. Oh, that's just for locking cells. Okay, darn. I was wondering if um, uh, here yeah, I am not sure what's causing that. It feels very buggy to me, like it because obviously it shouldn't be happening that way. Um, sure. Uh-huh. Um, but the fact that it does work when you open it through the Excel file selection is very strange. I'm uh, this is on my radar now. Let me look into it. Let me do some research on the internet. Um, and and I will either email you this week or we'll touch base about it again next Tuesday. Um, and yeah, we'll sort of take it from there. Yeah, but if we can, we should be able to get it back to the place where you don't have to do that, where you can just open the file you want to work with and use it. So yeah, of course, yeah, yeah. I'll look into this and see if I can't figure something out. No problem. Have an awesome night, Jen. You too. Bye. There's that. Let's